Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's so good to have you all here to have this conversation. Last week, President Biden took historic action to keep families together regardless of immigration status and to keep the best talents who go through U.S. higher education here in the country, adding to our economy. President Biden's historic executive order has created a new process that will help U.S. citizens with non-citizen spouses and children keep their families together by deferring any deportation action against this family. This will impact 500,000 undocumented spouses and 50,000 children of U.S. citizens. He also has created a new way to help young people who have been educated in the United States, including DACA recipients and other dreamers, to receive work visas more quickly. Here in Arizona, President Biden's executive order is going to positively impact so many families, keep them together, and our economy growing, and make sure that we keep attracting the best talents. We are so excited to have White House Senior Advisor to the President and Director of the Office of Intergovernmental Affairs, Tom Perez. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Alongside with so many community leaders, thank you so much for being here. And before I pass the microphone to Director Perez, I'll have Mayra Macias from Building Back Together for some words.
Thank you so much, Ariani, for moderating this conversation. I have the fun task of level setting and some housekeeping. But before I do that, I just want to say thank you so much to Lucha. Round of applause to Lucha for hosting us. This incredible office, the incredible work that you all do to advocate for our community. It's why we're here today to talk about the fruits of your labor. And also want to thank the co-host, Poder Latinx. Thank you so much. Round of applause to them. Just very quickly, Mayra Macias, Executive Director of Building Back Together. We are a national organization that works to tell the stories of the Biden-Harris policy agenda. And so we're very happy to hear from you on what this executive order means for your community and how we can work together to really implement this policy and make sure that it's helping people. The level setting part. So this is an official White House event. We know there's been a lot of activity in the last 12 hours. We're keeping this conversation to policy and not politics. And we know that a lot of you all do work in various realms, but want to make sure that we're focusing on policy. And Ellie just walked in. And also, thank you again for all of the work that you have done. And thank you, Tom Perez, who has the ear of the president and serves many, many roles. And we're so grateful that you're here today.
Yes. Thank you, Mayra. So we're going to pass to Director Perez for opening remarks, and then we'll start with the dynamic. Okay?
Perfect. Excelente. Buenos días. Es un honor pasar tiempo con ustedes. It's great to be here again. Thank you again to Lucha. You are indeed luchadores, and I'm so grateful and honored to be back. I've spent a lot of time here. And I'm so excited to see Prima, Ellie. When I was at the DNC, Ellie was, I think, our first dreamer ever on the DNC. And we became fast friends. And I saw you sent me, she texted me her photo with her beautiful baby. I can't help but stop and say, dreamer to doer to mom to education advocate. I got this shirt either from you or from Luis Heredia. So there you have it. I've spent a lot of time in Arizona. As I've heard President Biden say, and President Obama before him, civil rights is the unfinished business of America. And immigration is a big part of that. Our immigration system is broken. It's been 27 years since we've had immigration reform. I know that because I was working for Senator Kennedy 27 years ago when we passed it. And back then, the party of Lincoln the party of John Giles was a party that understood that our immigration roots are what has always made America great. And we were able to put party over country, country over party. We understood that, the story of Ellie is the story of America. And Dreamers are every bit as American as our 3 U.S.-born kids. They just need this sheet of paper. And so we came together then. But in the ensuing 27 years, consensus has proven elusive because we don't have a dance partner. I'll tell you one quick thing about the 96 bill. When we needed help from a governor to make sure that a really odious provision didn't make it, you know who helped us the most? A governor named George W. Bush from Texas. And I want to give credit when credit is due. And he did that. And our challenge now is we don't have a dance partner. President Biden introduced comprehensive immigration reform day one because he understood that it's an economic imperative, it's a moral imperative, it's a security imperative. And the challenge we have right now, and it's not, we don't need to hire a PhD forensics person to figure out why this isn't happening. The other side wants to weaponize the issue. They don't want to solve the problem. They want to use the problem for political gain. That's unconscionable. And that's why the president took this action. There are so many people like Jose, whom I had the privilege of meeting earlier today, UFCW member, met a woman, love at first sight, and been married a number of years. And they are living, under a cloud because of her immigration status. We need to do something about it. I mean, he's a proud, UFCW member, and he's kicking butt here. And they are pillars in the community. And we should remove those clouds. And that's what this is about. And this is going to help upwards of 500,000 folks. That understates it because so many of these folks have kids. So, when you really look at it, we're talking about helping, probably a couple million people or up to through this action. And it's the most extensive action since DACA. And again, there's no substitute for comprehensive immigration reform. And what we need to do in the meantime is to continue to summon the party of Lincoln. And again, I've worked a lot with Mayor Giles, and I'm really, really grateful for his moral clarity. I was part of the team that took on Joe Arpaio. I was part of the team that successfully took SB 1070 to the Supreme Court. And I remember a guy named Russell Pierce. And I remember the postscript of SB 1070 when he got recalled. And one of the people who led that effort is the gentleman to my right, because he had a moral clarity about him, and he continues to have a moral clarity about him today. And Supervisor Gallardo, thank you for your leadership on the Board of Supervisors. And I've had conversations with your Republican colleagues, including Supervisor Gates, who 4 years ago, as you all did, you had to incur the unimaginable. And by the way, no doubt about it, you better be prepared for a sequel, because it was pretty clear to me that that's the state of play. I digress, and I won't digress anymore because you correctly said that, but I digress. And so DACA was announced June 12th of 2012, and it was a 60-day window. We're trying to follow that same window. So there's a lot of work being done. I participated in a call literally this morning with our colleagues at DHS and at the White House. We're excited about this. We're going to work very carefully and closely with the communities. And we need you to be our voices, and we need you to provide the feedback on, what else should we be doing with this implementation, because implementation is everything. And, the implementation also of the relief for Dreamers and for DACA recipients is critically important. The notion that you go to college and you're a dreamer or you're a DACA and you do well and we have a worker shortage and you get hired and no, sorry, you can't get a work permit. That's nuts. And the president understood that. And that's why we are taking action, and it'll take a couple weeks as opposed to potentially never for people in that boat to get those opportunities. That's, again, that is in our economic self-interest as a nation to make sure that our talent that we are honing can get those opportunities to work. So I'm excited about this, but I know we can't do it without your help moving forward. You know, and so with that, I'm really looking forward to hearing from you, any questions you have, suggestions you have. And again, I love Arizona. I've met and had the opportunity over literally, dating back to, 15 years, actually 30 years, because I prosecuted some Border Patrol agents in Nogales back in the 90s when I had hair. And I've just always admired the passion that you bring. And this is a moment that demands partnership, that really calls on us to summon our better angels. And there are so many here in Arizona, and that's why it's a pleasure to be back, and I'm confident we will implement this with alacrity and success. So thanks again, and you've been just a gem, as always. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you, Director. And well, it's time to start listening our voices here, and we're going to start con la casa, que nos recibe, con las chicas, the girls from Lucha, Karime, and Mayte. Thank you so much for having us here and for hosting this magnificent event. Okay, so Karime, how was this announcement received in Arizona and in the whole state of Arizona and here in Phoenix and all the state?
Yeah, definitely. Well, first and foremost, thank you all so much for being here and taking some time out of your morning to visit our humble office. We are greeting you all with a lot of grace. Just a couple of housekeeping. There's a bathroom right over here to the left, and then down the hall, another one to the left. That's always a question that comes up. My name is Karime Rodriguez. I am the manager of Servicios for Lucha and ACE. So I work directly with our undocumented community. We're in the, we do that under the umbrella of some of our immigration lawyers as well as accredited representatives. And we're actually in the process of becoming accredited ourselves as well. So hoping to help even more people. I am an immigrant as well. My family and I migrated here when I was only 2 years old, and Arizona is the only home I've known. I've lived here ever since and never left Phoenix. I have had the privilege of last year being able to adjust my status. Before that, in 2021, I did advanced parole as well, where I was able to see my father who had been deported 8 years prior to that. And so I've seen a lot of what immigration does to the country. I've witnessed and experienced a lot of it, and also a lot of immigration processes. So I feel like I know enough to be able to give some of my expertise, but also to just share a little bit of who Lucha is. We are an organization that was created from the ground up during the days of SB 1070. Lucha was created by community members who were directly impacted and wanted to see a change in our state. So our values have held true since then. And last week's executive order was very exciting for me in particular, because I know of so many of our members, like our powerful Maite, who's here today, who will be able to take advantage of this opportunity, and many others who I know, like I'll name Jordy. He is a college student. He just graduated this May. He's undocumented and he has no way of working, as you were just describing. And so I immediately thought of Jordy, Maite, Maria, and so many others who I know that this will help. Yes, and new generations, I won't say too much because I'll pass the mic over, but Maite also has children, and so that will trickle down to her family. And so overall, there is this overwhelming support. As you mentioned, it is 500,000, but then we think of the families who that will trickle down to. And then also, of course, a lot of questions. People are eager. How do I do this? How can I apply? Is this a new visa? So a lot of logistical questions that we're receiving, but there is also an underlying sentiment of, there's hundreds of thousands of others who are looking for a pathway as well. So yeah, I'm happy that you are all here. I'm happy to continue this dialogue. Without further ado, since we are a member-led organization, I want to pass it to one of our members so that she can share her story.
Thank you, Karima.
Thank you so much, Karima. You're amazing. Thank you to every single one of you guys. It's amazing to see. It's like nerve-wracking to be like, oh my God, I'm in the spotlight right now. But I feel like I've been with Lucha, by the way, and my name is Maite Sanchez. I've been with Lucha for 3 years. I collaborate with him as well with my small business that I created called Those Munchies with the sweetness and stuff. I actually found Lucha when I was needing help with my DACA. I am also a DACA recipient. I was brought when I was 10 months. My parents, my mom brought me in a little, what are they bring like canguros, they say, and she did it, and it took a lot of guts for her to do that. And, we talk about it now. I'm 26 now, and unfortunately, my dad did get deported last year, and, my mom did take the decision to go, and I have not seen my parents for about 2 years. So with this executive order, and as well with my legal status with my husband, I got married back 10 years ago. We went through a whole situation. She's getting married for papers. No, love definitely gets you. I have 2 amazing boys. I have a 7-year-old and soon to be 8, and a 3-year-old. And I feel a lot of fear of it. I've done a lot of, I was like a little cricket, trying different areas of like work. I've done like warehouses. I've even been in the educational. I've worked with kids with a spectrum, with autism. That's something that I've always loved to do. And then that's when, unfortunately, the Red for Ed came around, and then COVID came around and all that. And I lost my DACA, and Lucha helped me rebuild it. They helped me feel my momentum, and I created my business. And instead of getting depressed and getting sad, and I make desserts, and my kids. So
Yeah, that's a good therapy.
Next time we have one, I would love to bring my ice cream, my flan, and all these other desserts and stuff, especially in Arizona with this heat. Yes. But I think that this executive order, not just for me, my kids have been a big impact, because one of a lot of fears, not just myself, but for a lot of new generations. I'm a young mother. I've hear many people that are like, I can't work. I gotta work on the loads. Can we wash your cars, clean your table, your laundry? It's just small things, and I've definitely, as a small business, I've always was like, oh, come on, yeah, like we'll find people, like como la comunidad se escucha junta. And I'm a small person, and I've always said small problems, big moves. And I've just thanked Lucha so much, and I think this opportunity, because I will be able to work, and I'll have doors open, not just work, and then all because of my DACA actually helps me work every 2 years. It's where it's like, oh my God, the drum roll. But this is gonna help me and my family. This isn't just like I got married for papers. I got married for my kids, to create a family. I created a business with just my sadness, and I think that this would help me, not just with like a lot of business owners, a lot of family, the new generations that are starting school, that are scared to like apply for grants to go to college. I would love to go to college and learn many things, even to help like the small, but I'm just one person. So I feel like how he said, like how Tom said it, like when we get together in this, it just feels so powerful. And I appreciate you guys hearing my story.
Thank you, Maite. Thank you for sharing your story. Let's pass the microphone You were talking, Director, about Jose's situation, about his case. I would like to hear from el propio Jose Platos. Tell us about the impact that this executive order is going to have in your family.
Well, the impact, it's going to help because, like, for one, like Micah was saying, my wife can't work. Okay? She works under, she babysits. It's not a lot of money, but it helps. Before that, it's like
Jose, put your microphone.
it's only been me, on the only breadwinner in the household, and it's hard, with all that, and we've been through a lot. We have a lot of bills. She was diagnosed with cancer years back. I can't remember exactly. She gave me notes and all that stuff, but yeah, we went through all that. She had to go through chemo and whatnot, and now with this, we already put in all the applications and all that. We're waiting for the appointment to Juarez or whatever. She just got her on Monday. She got the perdón, for which she's not going to get penalized. So, but the thing is that we still have to wait for that. But if this goes through, this is going to be a lot better, and we've been waiting. I believe it's 5 years already, something like that, 5, 6 years, and it's going to help out a lot. We don't have kids, wish we did, because of the cancer thing. So, unfortunately, we never could. But I believe it's going to help out a lot. It's like, what else can I say?
Thank you, Jose.
Sharing.
Thank you for sharing. Yes. Let's pass the microphone. Can you pick Ellie? Okay. Because
I'll hold the baby, Ellie.
yeah.
This is her first roundtable.
Yes. Awesome.
It's so fitting that this is her first roundtable. Buenos días, buenas tardes. My name is Ellie Perez-Plowski. Thank you, Lucha, for hosting us. My mom and dad brought me to the country when I was 4 years old. I found out I was undocumented in my history class when I was 16 years old, and we were taking the Ames test. There was a portion of the test that was like, fill out your social security number, and I remember raising my hand in class and saying, Mrs. Morgan, what if I don't have one? And I remember the look on her face. She had known my older sister, but I think like when I asked her out loud, it finally hit her, like, what do I tell this girl, And in high school, it doesn't mean anything, right? It just means you can't get a driver's license, and I couldn't work at the Wet Seal with my friends. But after high school, on my graduation night, it was this moment where, where I realized I couldn't go to college. I wanted to be an ER nurse at Maricopa Hospital and work in the burn unit, and I couldn't do it. So the next day after I graduated high school, I went to a clean houses with my mom. And I remember going up to my mom, and after having cleaned someone's bathroom, telling her, like, usted no me trajo aquí para esto, crying, telling her, you did not bring me here for this. You did not struggle, and you did not fight, to get us across that desert for this. And so I thought, I'm going to go to school. It doesn't matter what it takes. So for a whole year, I worked so I could go to school. And then I was able to go to school. And then in 2012, I remember waking up to the CNN headline, President Barack Obama grants deferred actions for dreamers. I didn't know what it meant, right? All I knew is that I could go to school. That's all I cared about, because ever since I was little, I was told if you go to school, get good grades, you will have a good life. Like, that's all it took to get the American dream. And I believed it. I bought it, man. I drank that Kool-Aid so hard. And I just cared about going to school. But in the process of going to school, my dream of becoming a nurse changed. Because then 1070 happened, and my mom was scared. And it was the first time that I had seen this woman who had trekked the desert with 3 girls who didn't speak English and like worked in construction be scared. And your mamas. And when your mamas are scared, there's a reason, right? And I started going to marches. And I met a couple people downtown at a 1070 march. And they were like, oh, come canvass with us. And I stayed at that first canvas in Maryville with Vidi, who now runs Poder, the little sweatshop that she runs, till 1 a.m. putting turf together. Gratefully, I've had a lot of people who have helped me, because that is part of the American dream. Helping your neighbor, helping someone. Once you've got those straps on your boots, you hand them over to the next person, right? And so I've been really lucky. And like Maite, I was really lucky to find someone that I love. And we got married 5 years ago. And after 27 years of being undocumented, having DACA, on July 4th, I'm going to be sworn in as a citizen. It's really come full circle, but then I think about, what about my mom? What about my sisters who still have DACA? What about people like Maite and Karime, right? I think that, yes, this order was huge, and it's something that I think was a long time coming, but inside it would be a disservice to the people who have helped me if I didn't ask, what about everybody else, right? What about our parents who, like, let's face it, our parents just want to come and go, right? They want to go home to their country, see their homeland, and they want to be here with their kids, right? What about the spouses that aren't going to qualify, you know? What about my sister's kids? So while this action is great, and I'm really excited to see what happens, I think that, again, like, the what about comes on November 5th, right? Like, I know this isn't electoral and we're only talking about policy, but also, like, what about everyone else? And that's going to be answered on November 5th. That's why we need a Congress to pass immigration reform. We need to put President Biden back in the White House, right? Because without them, the what about comes, like, what about when are we leaving, right? So thank you for having us. Thank you. And this is Valentina. This is her first roundtable. I made a joke with my husband, even because she was born right before my citizenship, and I was like, they can't kick me out no more. I got an anchor baby. But thank you guys for having us.
Thank you, Ellie. Thank you. Kristen. Yeah, thank you. Well, we are just about 2 minutes. I don't know if you want to give us final words, or I can share a question between Christian representing Poder Latinx and Major Giles.
Yeah, no, I want to
Okay,
hear.
this announcement has been recent, from last week. We are willing to know how the implementation is going to be and how government and nonprofits are thinking of work together in this matter. Thank you, Christian.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you everybody for being here. My name is Christian Avila. I'm also a dreamer, and thankful for this opportunity. That there's a lot of I think myself I qualify, and a lot of my family members will also qualify. So I think this is more of a layered approach on how do we fix and how do we coordinate with government, and that the number one on the list is disinformation, and education around this whole thing, the executive action. It's also around legal assistance and guidance, and just good, taking me back to the DACA days and to the citizenship days, and holding, DACA drives, citizenship drives whenever we're able to, right? But more importantly, have a list and have a relationship with trusted attorneys. So that way we're taking care of our community, and is having just awareness of different notarios that may unfortunately take advantage of our Latino community. We also need to be working on outreach programs, and that means like on social media, but also on the field. I think a lot of these partnerships can also validate a lot of these organizations doing the work, especially if they're working hand in hand with the city, with the county. Going further, that is around data collection and reporting. What's working, what's not working, who are we reaching in terms of demographics and geographically speaking, right? And I think this is also a chance for us to do a lot of building capacity around how do we utilize some of the resources that come to the city, to the county, and how do we continue building on organizations that do this type of work day in and day out. And then lastly, just monitoring and giving feedback on what are we hearing on the ground, what are some of the things, some of the biggest challenges that we're facing on the ground, and just relaying back to to the government side. But yeah, I think that's the way that we should be working, and we're looking really forward to filling some of the applications. And my dream is I've filled thousands of citizenship applications through the course of the working with Mi Familia Vota, with Poder Latinx, and I can't wait to the day that I can actually fill my own application out and hopefully.
Major.
Well, thank you. I came to listen, and this has really been gratifying for me to be here and hear these inspiring stories. I'm the proud mayor of Mesa, Arizona. Mesa is the 35th largest city in the United States, but we are in the top 20 when it comes to number of DACA recipients. So I've always felt a real compulsion to be the mayor of all of the people of Mesa and to be an advocate on immigration issues. And I've had the honor of being the chair of the Immigration Reform Task Force at the U.S. Conference of Mayors for the last several years, and so have had the great opportunity to get involved in the national level. I want to just underscore, Mr. Perez a moment ago said that he loves Arizona. I can testify to you that that's true. When I met him just a few short years ago, I was shocked at how well he knew so much. He knew who all the players were in Arizona. He knew where all the bodies were buried. He was so excited about the passage of Prop 308 a couple of years ago. And what you need to know is this man's office is literally a few steps away from the Oval Office in the West Wing of the White House. So we can't have a more strategic friend than Mr. Perez in advocating on these issues. One of my favorite sayings is a saying in Spanish, and it's "Dime con quien andas y te diré quién eres," right?
Bravo.
I think we all need to remember that we are going to be defined as people by who we walk with, and working on this issue and with and advancing the case of Dreamers is got to be at the top of our agenda. I am so grateful for President Biden's executive order, but really it's no substitute for congressional action. We all know how tenuous DACA is because it's an executive order. So it really just, I think what it does is point a spotlight on the humanity of this situation and the president's desire to keep families together. And so I think that's a great message for us all to continue to elevate, but with the ultimate goal of getting some comprehensive immigration reform.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much. And I'd like to finish this round. Steve Gallardo, yes. And then we finish with Dulce and Alicia briefly. What do you think for the implementation process would be the things that we or the government and the administration need to consider deeper?
No, first of all, thank you so much for once again coming back to our great state of Arizona and being part of another discussion in regards to immigration. Many of these folks around the table I met in the early 2000s when I first got elected in the legislature, and we're pushing back against the Russell Pierce, the Prop 200 to 300. We had many meetings, Tom, if you remember back in the at El Portal, talking Russell about Joe Pound. Anyways, but Dennis Burke was there. Yeah, Dennis, that's right. We still talk to Dennis, love Dennis. But you know, it goes back to what was said already twice, and even the mayor's mentioned it. The need for comprehensive immigration reform. We've been talking about this for 20 plus years, going 30 years, you know, the need for comprehensive immigration reform. And I'm not trying to get political, but there was a bill in Congress. It was a bipartisan bill that was introduced in Congress, and I'm not getting political, but Trump killed it. That's it, that's fact. But we can't lose focus on the fact that we do need federal action, and that is so true. We have to make sure we have people in place that want to do the right thing for all of America, and that is to address immigration reform. With that said, the executive order is huge. We all know it. We know the importance of this executive order. Now I think our task, the mayor talked about it and Christian talked about it, how do we now inform our community? How do we inform the people in Arizona, across this country, the importance of this executive order and what's next? What is it that they can, what's their next step? One of the first calls I started getting in my office was, Supervisor, what does this mean? You know, so I think our task moving forward is continue to educate social media, working with all the various organizations around this table that have been doing this great work for so long, working together, nonprofit, government, working with the counties, municipalities, everyone coming together to say, this is the process, this is what needs to be done. This is exactly what's in the executive order, and continue to work with our communities. So I think this is huge. A big thank you to President Biden for this executive order. We all know how wonderful it is. Now we have to be able to spread this word. Yeah, it's relatively recent, only a couple of weeks, but now our work on the ground level really starts off, and that is educating our community. Again, not trying to get political, but the need for congressional action is must. And we thought, at least I thought, we were going to get there with some type of a bill. Unfortunate, you have folks that want to weaponize this critical issue. But we got to continue to push back. I'm a strong believer of standing up and telling the people of Arizona, the people, the truth. And the truth was, there was a bill that was introduced, and President Trump killed it. That is fact. And we continue to tell that message as well. But Tom, thank you so much for coming back to Arizona. We're going to have to get you your own little casita or somewhere to live, so you have somewhere to call home. You've been here so much, but thank you for putting so much effort here in Phoenix.
Thank you, Supervisor. Let's pass the microphone to Dulce. Yes, Dulce, thank you so much for being here.
No, thank you for hosting us and putting this together. My name is Dulce Matus. I was undocumented for 12 years. And I got involved in 2009 because that was the year that I graduated from ASU with a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering. In that same year, the DREAM Act got reintroduced. So I said, well, I'll just get involved as an immigrant rights activist. We'll pass the DREAM Act, and then I can be an engineer. 15 years later, we still don't have the DREAM Act, right? But we have DACA. And I was very happy to see that executive action. But living in Arizona has always been a bittersweet moment, right? Because the same day that DACA is supposed to get implemented is the same day that Governor Jan Brewer decided to deny driver's license. And after that, deny access to higher education. So my question, and I know the details are still being worked on, is how can we better protect this executive order? Because we know that there's going to be legal action to try to prevent it to happening, whether they have no standing, but it's going to create confusion, it's going to create fear, it's going to create discouragement from people that qualify for the program not to apply. And if we can also add more clarity, so the number one question is, how can we better protect this executive order against legal action? And the second one is to add verbiage to make it, once that you have your work permit, you want to do your basic things like everybody else, right? Getting a driver's license, becoming a homeowner. So backtracking, I never practiced engineering, but I opened up my own real estate company. And one of the challenges that I saw is that once that we had DACA, a lot of lenders were saying, we're not going to give loans to DACA recipients because it was a new program and they didn't know what to do. And I think if we have leadership, or if we can add something on the FHA guidelines where people who are going to get the work permits, they can easily become homeowners as well.
Thank you, Dulce. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. We're going to finish with okay, yes. Okay.
I would not feel good about myself if you didn't
Thank you,
speak.
Tom.
Good to
Hi,
see you
everyone. Alicia Contreras with Corazon Arizona. We are a member of the Faith in Action Network, and so we work with many different houses of worship, diverse traditions, etc. And so a lot of the points that folks have brought here, you know, the history as well, back in 2010, before then showed up to pray and like engage houses of worship in exactly some of the fights that we're experiencing here. So how can we better equip houses of worship, schools, businesses, etc., to have the information so that there's not the disinformation campaigns that will come where communities will be potentially taken advantage of in this process, and making sure that this is not only seen as a Latina option, right? You know, we know our immigrant community is very diverse and vivid and all the things. So I want to make sure that the language access to this information, also here in Arizona, across the country, is accessible. And then for many of us, I used to also teach English and run DACA clinics and teach and 400s. How do we support those groups with also the resources they need to help with administrative relief costs that we were built up on in the past? And those fundings and those access to resources have dwindled in the years. And so those are some of the things that I'm thinking about as you are creating maybe the stakeholder groups to perform and not perform, to be thought partners in this, to support one another, because even our members are here that, you know, graduated from Arizona State University. Behind here we have Carolina, and then Felipa here as well, you know, has been wanting and supporting many people for over decades. And so how do we get them some relief as well, is where the questions I'm starting to think through.
Excellent questions asked by everyone. Let me again say how inspired I am to listen to your stories. Maite, Karime, everybody here. I'm so inspired. The next 60 days are all about partnership. DACA was announced, and 60 days later, DACA was being implemented. USCIS, United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, is running point on this, and success has to be a joint venture. We can't do it alone as the government. So we need local governments to continue to step up as you have. And we will work with you to provide you with the information, because you're going to be getting a lot of calls. That's good news. The more calls you get, the better I'm going to feel, you know, because there are tens of thousands of families here in Arizona that I believe are potentially eligible for this executive action. We need the labor movement to continue to stand up as they have. And I want to say thank you to the AFL-CIO today. Spent a lot of time together with labor as your former labor secretary, and I'm always honored to be surrounded by so many trade unionists. And Jose, I'm going to call Mark Perrone when I get back to DC next week, who's the national head of UFCW, to tell him I met one of your members and he kicked some butt. And we're going to make sure that the unions are there. Philanthropy, in part answer to your question, we are in touch with philanthropy because philanthropy can play a very important role. We recognize, you know, USCIS is not a taxpayer-funded agency. It is funded through fees. And so we've got to deal with that reality, and that's why philanthropy can play a really big role. And we've worked very closely with them on work authorization clinics and things of that nature. So that's another major role. The media can be incredibly important. Hay tantas oportunidades aquí en Arizona para familia que tiene una persona que no tiene papeles y el esposo o la esposa tiene papeles. Es muy importante que estamos trabajando juntos para asegurar que cada persona, 100% de las personas que son elegibles de este programa actualmente participan en este programa. Muy, muy importante. And so that's the partnership that we built with DACA. It was very successful. A lot of the people who designed DACA are back in government. Ali Mayorkas designed DACA, implemented DACA. He is a heroic figure, by the way, immigrant himself, and we will be working together with them. And so I leave you with optimism. And the reason I love Arizona, someone said this earlier, but it bears repeating. You know, in the height of Arpaio and Pierce and other folks who wanted to divide this state, moments can get transformed into movements. And that's exactly what happened in Arizona. You know, I mean, people like Ruben Gallego, activists, you know, Raquel Terán, activists, so many folks who stood up, and so many labor leaders who stood up and understood, so many elected leaders who understood that Russell Pierce doesn't reflect our values as a state. That moment got turned into a movement. That movement is never a linear movement, and headwinds have not abated. There are more headwinds. There are people who believe that you poison the blood of our nation by your presence. That is not who we are as a nation. And that is why we need to continue this program, and that's why we need to continue to make very clear that our rich immigrant tradition is precisely what makes America great. And that's why I love this program, because your wife is every bit as American as everyone in this room. So thank you so much for your participation. Thank you again for your leadership. Mayra, thank you. And all the labor folk in this room, adelante, junto.
Thank you so much.